I was butchering a chicken for my wife. She said, we got company coming for dinner tonight. When I was a kid, that reminds me, this is Pop's Nuggets of Wisdom from the School of Hard Knocks. When I was a kid, we butchered our chickens. We butchered everything. You young people that don't know nothing about preparing your own food, raising your own food, butchering your own food. We raised hogs, we raised cows, we raised chickens, we raised rabbits, and we raised our own food. When I was a kid, refrigeration and freezers, that was rich people's. They had that. We preserved our meat in the smokehouse. We preserved our meat with salt, sugar-cured hams, stuff in that nature. Had a salt box that we put fat back and pork fat and stuff for seasoning beans later on. We called it fatback. And then you had stricoline, which was part of the ribs and stuff where the bacon comes from. And you had hog jaws. You had to know how to butcher your own food. When these yard birds, we called these yard birds when I was a kid. My granddad said, go out there and get one of them yard birds. The preacher's coming to dinner. So we go out there with a piece of stick about 2 foot long and throw some corn on the ground. Old chicken get corn on his throat. He stretch his head up. He stretch that head up. You take that stick and you fly it out through there like a boomerang. And you break his neck. You boil you some water. You dip that chicken in that water and you pull the feathers out. The water loosens them up. You can just push them right off. These chicken here run down through a conveyor belt. They go through scalding water and then they come up and a paddle beats them to death, so it bruises them all up, breaks the bones and stuff. You don't realize that you're eating no bruised up chicken, but I know what to do in a chicken house. I worked in one when I was a teenager. Worked right next door to one. This is how you butcher a chicken. You start with the wing and you fold it back from his armpit and you cut till you find that joint. Once you find that joint, you don't have to have a big knife. Little knife will do. You find that joint, and that wing will come right off just like that. And you reach over there and you get this other wing. And you do it to the joint. If you hit that joint right there with that knife, it's just a little gristle. It ain't nothing there holding that wing on but a gristle. You can cut right through it with this knife. Look how little that knife is. It ain't very big. You don't need much to butcher chicken. I want to show you how to dismantle this chicken like you should be and not cut all the pieces like you get these fast food restaurants where you get a half a breast and half of a backbone or some crap. Used to, butchers took pride in their work and they butchered meat, tender meat, and they butchered it where you enjoyed eating it because they didn't give you these old hormone-fed, steroid-fed. If you want to take this leg apart at the thigh and you can cut it right here in this joint and dismantle it. I don't know how my wife's going to fix this, so I'm leaving it. She knows how to cut it loose at the joint. She just don't know how to break it down. Anyway, I'll leave it with the thigh and the leg hooked together. But I will show you on this one exactly what I'm talking about, since you see this joint right here. See where that knuckle come out? Takes it right off, just like there's a joint. Oops, sorry about that. There's a joint right there. And if you hit that joint right there, you can dismantle that leg just like this, see? You go right in that joint and you take the thigh off at the leg. That's how you get the thigh off of there. Now this is the back. You reach right here where this skin tissue is. You cut that side, and then you cut this side. And by the way, these old back pieces, they're not good for much. They got a little bit of meat on them. If you fry them, you can get all that off. But your best thing to do with these is to make you a pot of chicken dumplings. And these scrap pieces here, this is what you make your chicken dumplings out of. you don't use your breast and all your good parts. You use this backbone right here. It's got a little bit of meat on it. You save all this fat. This is where your good flavors come from for your chicken and dumplings. And you boil that, and when you render all that off, you pick the meat off that's good and lean, and you put that back in your pot of dumplings. Now right here is the other piece of backbone. You got a rib cage right here, and it has two parts. And you get just right in that rib cage, you can come right up through there with that knife. There's a heavy bone right here, and you got to stay inside that bone. This one here, this is what I'm talking about. See how these bones are broke up right here? Now, I didn't do that. That's where that chicken went through the paddles that beat the feathers off of it. Now, these bones here, when you boil this for your dumplings, you gotta have to be careful or you'll leave those in there. That'd be like swallowing a fish bone. You don't want to do that either. Now, right here, I gotta get this flimsy knife here won't cut this bone. So right here, I gotta go to a regular boning knife. You turn this thing around, you find the center of this chest bone. And you put that knife straight through there, just like that. Then you can take this little knife, if you've got the heavy bone. Yep, I did. Now the pulley bone is right here. I'm not going to salvage that pulley bone. I'm going to cut it in half. That's the pulley bone right there. I just cut it in half. If you want that pulley bone, you got to turn it over while it's in one piece before you make two pieces out of it. You got to turn it over, and when it's, let me put it back together. You turn it over like this. If you want that pulley bone, you start right here, and you just shave that piece of meat out down to this where it's connected right here. That pulley bone connects right there. You just shave that down if you want the pulley bone in one piece before you split the wire. I split it. My wife's going to use this for something else. But while I was cutting up this chicken to try to teach some young people how to butcher a chicken so they can save money at the grocery store, a whole chicken's cheaper than buying pieces of a chicken. Well, when I was a kid, we called these gospel hogs, and my granddaddy would have the preacher over, or my family would have the preacher over. My granddaddy had a piece of family property, had 5 houses on it. Back in the 50s when I was a little fella. Anyway, my granddaddy died when I was 11. He taught me a lot of things. He had me crawling around on hogs when I was 4 years old with a butcher knife shaving hair off of them, scraping them. He'd take my uncles, my daddy, my uncles, they all lived on the same property. My granddaddy raised up 700-800 pound hogs. It'd take 4 men to put it in a wheelbarrow to get it over to the butcher house. My granddad had a smokehouse, and he had a butcher house right there together. Had a big old, I don't know what kind of tree it was, but he had his butchering block was a big old huge tree with legs on it. The thing was about that thick. But he hung hogs, and we had big old black cauldrons that we would boil water in. And when you get that water boiling hot, in that black, I call it witch's cauldrons, those big black round pots. You get that water boiling hot, and you put your old feed sacks. We used to get feed in old burlap bags. Y'all young kids won't know what a burlap bag is if one was sitting on one. But my granddaddy would butcher a hog. He carried a 22-ounce ball peen hammer in his overalls right here, because sows, when they got babies, they will attack you. Even a domesticated hog will hurt you over her babies. Used to have a friend named Mr. Penley. He had about 200 hogs. He got hurt real bad. Old Sal got him down out there. But he happened to have his 38 on him as well. He had to kill that hog before he killed him. And all he did was reach in there to get a dead pig out of the sow's, I guess you'd call it a wallow. I ain't never heard where a hog sleeps called nothing else. Anyway, he reached in there with a rake to get this pig out of there. She had laid on, mashed, killed, whatever, it died. It was runt. I don't know. They do that happens. Anyway, he was trying to get this pig out of there, and he just reached over there with a rake. He was raking the mess up and cleaning out around in the barn there. He just reached over that rake. He was in the pen with old Sal. He reached over there that rake. He drug that pig out of there. That Sal got up and knocked him down, got on top of him, like to kill the old man. He was in his 60s. Of course, he raised hogs. He knew what to do with him. He killed that old Sal. We butchered that thing. My granddad used to go around on cut day and cut all the boar hogs and make it hogs out of them. I used to call them it hogs. They're not female, not male anymore. They just it hogs. You know that our young generation has they've got a problem in their life. They need leadership. They need father and mother figures. They need somebody with common sense to tell these young people something. I mean, come on. I have very little education. 4th grade reading level at least. Maybe I got a 4th. Because of our fine government schools that I went to, it didn't teach me how to read. They want to call you dyslexic or whatever, or some kind of special aid child or something. No, it ain't that. You might not be able to learn. You might not be able to learn conventionally like other kids. Some kids have to be taught in a different manner. I'm a hands-on person. I've got to be taught by doing. I've done everything in my life. But I still live an old style. I try to live my life in the 1800s. Because this world's in bad shape. There's people at church, my church, they say if things go bad, they're coming to my house because they know they're not going to go hungry. I don't have to have a refrigerator to preserve my food. I don't have to have electricity. It's convenient and it's nice and it's handy. But what are y'all going to do if you don't know how to live without electricity and refrigeration? Do y'all know the old methods that we used in the early 40s and 50s, 1800s for that matter? Do y'all know these methods to preserve y'all's food without refrigeration? You need to learn how. I don't have to depend on government for food stamps. Never have depended on government food stamps, never will. I'm not going to be a slave to the government by taking their handouts and their free claim to have free stuff. I've got enough pride about my old silly ass. I'd go out there and eat weeds out of my yard before I depend on this government to send me $1, except for what I've paid in for my Social Security. And that's mine. And they're spending that and frivoling that away. And I paid that in since I was 15 years old. I left home and I started work at 15, and I've been paying the government Social Security money and all the other stuff, money that they collect from us in taxes is not even legal. These taxes they got on us is for a war effort to support the war in World War II, and it was supposed to have been abolished after the war was done away with. But they just found out it was an easy way for the government to take money from the people, so they still do it. And we let them. And we got idiots up there in Washington right now that don't need to be there. And I don't want to get talking on the government, because if I do, I get mad. And I try not to use too much profanity. But the government, you know, the Democrats have the right logo for their party. A jackass. Every one of them fits that. They are all jackasses. And that's my feeling about the government up there. They better leave me alone, and I'll leave them alone. And I'll live my little life out here on my land without depending on them for anything I need. And I shouldn't have got on the government because I get kind of ill about that. I'm going to tell you something. I'm through butchering a chicken. I tell these little stories as I do something like this. Next time I may be building a rabbit snare to show you how to trap some food off the land out there in my yard. I put snares out there if I want a rabbit. And I catch me a rabbit for supper sometimes in the winter. I don't do it in the summer because they all got babies. And while the babies is out there, they're going to grow up and make me some more food. And that's right here in my yard. I don't have to shoot them. I don't have to go out and hunt them. All I have to do is just walk right out there in my yard with a piece of string, a pocket knife, and I can build me a snare and catch me a rabbit. I might put 5 or 6 of them around the edge of the fence line. If I want to be sure and catch one, the only thing is, you catch a possum sometimes, you put a little piece of apple on a bait stick. And that he'll hit that bait stick or bite that apple, and it would catch him by the foot or by the leg or by the waist or somewhere. It'd catch him and just sling him up there, and he'd be dangling there on the string when I walk out there and cut the string loose and bring my food to the house. But as I said before, this live food doesn't spoil. I live off the land. I eat wild game. I am on no medication, and I will never be on any welfare, any food stamps. Everybody it's dependent on the government for their housing, dependent on the government for food stamps, and dependent on the government for all these handouts that they getting. Somebody's paying that bill for them. It's usually the taxpayers and what few people are still working. I had to retire because of Obama. And I didn't like it a bit, but I ain't nothing I can do about that. And now here we are again in the Obama era of everybody being starving to death and having to depend on government for something, and gas prices and everything going out of style, food going out of style. Young people, you need to find out who you're voting for and what they stand for before you waste your vote on them. Your vote is one thing that you can control the government with. And if you don't vote, you ain't got no say. And if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And most of you millennials, y'all think all this social government is a good thing. You need to get yourself on take your vacation, go to Guatemala, go to Honduras, go over there to some of those countries and spend 1 week where these people are migrating from over to our country, and you'll find out why they're leaving there in droves. It's not hard to figure out. Them people are in bad shape over there. Don't blame them for wanting to come over here. I wish they would do it legal. But circumstances, I don't always stay right in the confines of the law myself when it comes to certain things. I'm not real shy about telling you that, but if it comes to me eating and breaking the law to get something on my table, I might break one of the game laws to feed myself. I didn't say I would, I said I might. But I'm not going to do it without. I'll put it that way. I live off of deer meat, bear, rabbit, squirrel. That's my lifestyle. Run around free out here in the woods in my yard. I can go out there with a BB gun, a slingshot, a piece of string, make a snare. It don't matter to me. Bow and arrow. I'm going to eat. I have been known to sneak in on other people's property and take a deer or two every now and then. Depends on how desperate I am, how empty my freezer might be. Well, I'm through babbling, y'all. That's all I'm going to talk about on this video. Y'all have a blessed day.